this is gonna ruin the tour. What tour? The world tour. That was essentially the plot of Smile 2, and I really, really wanted to like it, but...
Stop smiling at me!
So Smile 2 is a sequel to the surprise hit that was Smile a couple years ago. When I saw Smile for the first time like a year ago, I really liked it. I thought it was a very interesting new take on, trauma and guilt, and it was a very scary idea. Fast forward to Smile 2, and I was really excited for this movie. I really, really wanted to like it, which it hurts me that I really don't like this movie. There are a lot of great things about this movie that I could talk about, but there are also some things that I just think fundamentally hurt the movie. But I'm going to talk about the positive first, and that is Naomi Scott. Really, she is the biggest positive and the main reason to go see this movie, because she is giving such a magnificent star turn in this film. If you know Naomi Scott, you know she's an amazing talent. The fact that it's taken this long to get her in a lead as in another project, criminal. But in here, she gives arguably her best performance, and I think that if the Academy, if awards ceremonies weren't so snobbish towards horror film, I think she would be a really dark horse contender, because she was just that good in this film. I think that she takes on the role of this major pop star who has dealt with so much trauma, who has dealt with substance abuse, who is still recovering. She's only a year out from arguably her lowest point before this Smile enigma took over her life. And so there's a lot that she's still dealing with, a lot that she hates about herself. And I think that Naomi Scott gives her so much depth and compassion that sometimes the script doesn't really fully give her. But you can just see it in the way that she's taking in all of that's happening around her. And I think she's just phenomenal. Still feel that the journey that she eventually goes on, despite some very cool sequences throughout, like when she's rehearsing, or when she's giving this when she's giving this speech to this gala, the benefit gala for underprivileged youths in music, that is a very good scene. That is one of the funniest, most heartbreaking scenes that I've seen this year. And so kudos to I believe his name is Parker Finn, the writer director, for that scene alone. I think that again, key moments that make seeing this movie worth it. But again, I don't think I would continue watching this series personally, for the reasons that I'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, I think that this film had a lot of really interesting things to potentially talk about in regards to pop stardom and how it feels to have your psyche break down when you're in such a public stage. I think that that's a really interesting idea. And it's something that isn't really fully delved into in this film. But again, the idea that you're breaking down and so many other people's livelihoods depend on you, it sort of mirrors the Smile disease, because in a way, being a celebrity, you have a lot of parasites already not leeching off of you, but depending on you, on your survival to survive themselves. And so I think that is a really interesting kind of parallel that the film doesn't really highlight, but that I think it's important in hindsight. There are some other things that I really like. For example, it is a very stylish film. It looks beautiful. The music numbers, there's a couple of music numbers. It's not a musical, although Smile 3, maybe that's how they get me back for Smile 3, making a musical. But no, some of the music numbers were really cool. They were very well shot, and then you add in that horror element, and I think that it really works. There was one too many upside down shots where it started to become a little bit of a running gag more than a visual tool for this film. I think it works a couple of times, but then eventually it starts to get a little silly. But still, not a huge issue with the film. So now, one of the things that I didn't love about this film that is not spoilery is the fact that I think the first film was so good because this concept of having this villain that takes over your mind and breaks you down is so interesting the first time around, because you're discovering what it does, its limits. But in this film, they didn't really do much to expand any of that, and it just kind of torturing Naomi Scott's character through the entire 2 hour runtime, which gets exhausting. It takes a toll on you, the audience member, but also I don't think that it offers up anything new to make that time worth it. In hindsight, I look back at this film and I'm like, what was the point of this film? It is very bleak. It's just not a good time, and it really reminds me surprisingly of Joker, because Joker 1, again, very interesting idea, very good film that ended up being a hit, same like Smile, on a lower scale, but still. And then now this sequel, I feel like both of them don't really know how to continue the story. They just kind of tread water and do the same things in a slightly different setting. They have this like really clever concept. One's a musical, right? And then this one, you follow a pop star instead of just like a normal everyday person, which is really interesting. But they don't do much with that, aside from a couple of scenes here and there. And I think that that really is the fatal flaw of this film. But now I'm gonna get into spoilers. So I'm just here from the future, because I did record this earlier, and then I realized that I remembered a bit of the mythology from Smile 1, where it's like if you kill someone in front of somebody else, then it transfers from you to them. But again, this is something that, what if someone hasn't seen the first one in a while? What if someone hasn't seen the first one at all, and it's not explained in this film? That I'm still considering it a plot hole and a fault from the movie. Number one, this monster thing is starting to not make sense to me. Why take us on this entire journey? And also, what does that mean for the end of this film? So, spoiler alert, Naomi Scott does not make it out of this movie. Like in the first movie, our main heroine succumbs to this smile thing. And I think I liked it in the first movie when it did this, because it kind of subverts expectations. You think she's gonna be a final girl, and then she's not. But at this point, it's hopeless. Like, you want to go to these movies, you want to see Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, Halloween, because there's a little hope that you can defeat the monster, you can defeat the bad guy. But there is no hope in these movies, and I don't understand what thinking behind that is. Especially because there was a moment at the end where you see Naomi Scott kind of fight back against this thing, and the crowd was so happy to see that. It wasn't necessarily a sold out auditorium, but people were still clapping. They were like, yeah. And then she dies. This thing infects her and she dies. And she does it while she's performing on stage. And so everyone sees. And I think that's really the entire point of making her pop star, was like so that she can infect everyone. But then again, like, can that even actually happen? Because there was other people at the beginning and it only affected that one guy. So is it only going to affect one person in the audience? And then in that case, it kind of defeats the purpose of killing off Naomi Scott. And yeah, people have brought up that issue of like hopelessness, and like, you can't defeat the monster. What's the point? You can't defeat, especially because this being symbolizes trauma, and it symbolizes so many issues that people have, guilt, and all of that. And this film is just saying that you can't beat that. You just succumb to it. Like, what? Why would you even make a film if that's what you believe? Anyway, I didn't love that, and for that reason, I wouldn't say that I regret seeing Smile 2, because like I said, Naomi Scott's performance is worth the ticket of admission. And then there's I can't remember his name, but the guy who plays Parker Hudson is actually Jack Nicholson's son. And he does a really good job. He has one scene where he has actual dialogue, and he's clearly was given direction to take a lot of inspiration from past performances of his father, but he's doing a great job, and I really do want to see more of him. Like, the supporting cast is pretty good. You got the kid from Agatha All Along, who plays Eddie in Agatha All Along. And here he gets a little bit more to do than in that show, but still not a whole lot. But I liked him. He's very charismatic, and so he has something very sweet about him. But yeah, there's like, I can't justify this film, and I really wanted to like it, because I was very surprised by the first one, both the surprises and the twist, and but I didn't like this film, and I think a part of that also has to do with um, there are some horror villains, Freddy Krueger, that are in your head, but this one is so in your head that you as the audience don't know what to believe, and I guess that's definitely part of the intention. It really does make you very anxious, but it also makes you a little bit upset. Um, and I know some people might be into that. Some people might love that type of horror film. That's not my type of horror film. I love to feel a little bit empowered by the end of it, a little bit of hope by the end of it. Some of my favorite horror films, Ready or Not, the Scream franchise, um, most recently Terrifier. Like they all have really good villains, but there's also a lot of hope. And the final girl or the final person does have some autonomy as to what is going to become of them, and they can overcome all of the trauma, all of the guilt, everything that is thrown upon them. And so I just, for that reason, I'm out on this franchise. I don't think I would particularly want to see a Smile 3. I know they're going to make it because I have a feeling that this was going to do great at the box office. And I'm not going to be upset if it does, because Naomi Scott deserves more work. And if this is the film that gets her, if she couldn't do it with $1 billion film, Aladdin, playing Princess Jasmine and killing it, if this film does it for her, I'll be so happy. And I will have no complaints. I think that's the one mission that this film can still achieve. But yeah, as an actual piece of entertainment, it's just not for me. So yeah, I don't know if you're gonna go see Smile 2. I would love to hear your thoughts afterwards. Did you feel the same way, or did you like that they're really making this an undefeatable monster? I don't know. I think if you really can't figure out a way to bring back the monster after it's been defeated, like that's just kind of horror staple at this point. Like Freddy Krueger, how many times has he been killed off? It's just to inspire hope. I mean, anyway, I shouldn't get so heated about this, but those are my opinions on Smile 2. If you see it, let me know. If you don't see it, I don't blame you.